All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. Today, we're going to be looking at several events, things such as the Louisiana Purchase, the War of 1812, and the Monroe Doctrine. Okay, so we're going to be looking at that good stuff. So let us begin. But first, I move this down there. Okay. So the objectives today, we're going to analyze whether Jefferson had the authority to complete the deal known as the Louisiana Purchase. Okay. The next one, examine the aftermath of the War of 1812. This is a war that a lot of people don't know about, including, you know, some people who think they know a lot about America and America's history. They tend to forget this one. And then create an argument on why the sea to shining sea, that old saying, is a problem in 1823 when it was basically created. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at your warm-up. So this is your warm-up picture. The first question I ask you is create a list of things you see. Now, I understand that this picture is not the best of quality, which I do apologize, but the thing is, the things coming out of that, it's a dog, by the way. The thing coming out of his mouth, if you notice, it's circles. And I'm sure you can tell what usually comes in circles when it comes to finances. Okay, so there's that. And the second question is basically, what do you think this artist is trying to say? That dude dancing, that's a Frenchman, by the way. Okay. So pause the video if you're still writing, but if you're not, if you're done, get ready because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right, so if you may have noticed, I turned off the light because I was looking at myself and I looked really, really like Casper the Ghost. So I took that off. Okay, so here's the thing. In 1800, Spain gave Louisiana back to France. Okay, now the thing is, French just got a new emperor. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay, Napoleon Bonaparte is one of history's most famous people. Now the thing is, he was one of those people who wanted to conquer the world. And the thing is, in order to do that, he needed money. So he's like, okay, what can I do? How can I get money? And then he was like, well, we got that land that we don't really use. It's our land. Native Americans live there. Yeah, we do some trading with them, but I can make more money selling it to the United States. So that's what he does. And he says, okay, United States, guess what? That land is for sale if you want it. What you got? Thing is, like I told you guys, Jefferson, he came in to be president, and he was like, you know what? I'm going to lower the power of the government. Make the federal government's too powerful, too strong. So he wanted to lower it. But like I told you about the debt thing and stuff like that. But the thing is, this is an opportunity to get so much land, basically double the size of the United States. So what he does is he basically works out a deal. And on April 30th, 1803, Congress approves the Louisiana Purchase. And we basically buy it for $15 million. Okay. We gave them $11.25 million. Right. And the thing is, France owed us $3.75 million, but we forgave them that money. So they'd have to pay us back that. It's like if someone owes you $10, and you're like, oh, well, I owe you $30, so you don't owe me $10, so here's the 20, there's the $30, we're even, but the thing is, I was say, oh, lost my train of thought for a second. Now I got it back. The thing is, Jefferson is kind of stepping his boundary, because there's nothing that says in the Constitution that the president can buy land. And people are like, can he do that? Can the president really do this? And he basically uses this thing called the executive order, basically saying, yeah, the executive powers, and saying, yeah, I can do this. It's not, it's mentioned in the Constitution, but it doesn't say specifically to buy land. It says the president does have the powers when needs be. And he's like, this needs to be. We need this land, before anyone else gets it. So before I move on, look at this map. If you look to the west, which is this, my bad. There you go. I'm looking at my video. This way on your on the map, if you look at that kind of orangish, pinkish area, it says Spain. Okay, Spain owns that. Okay. So here's my question to you. Do you think that the Louisiana Purchase was a good idea? Why or why not? Should we have just bought it right away, or do you think that the United States could have waited, maybe just got the price down, you know? And let's say the Napoleon sold it to somebody else, that we could have bought it from that place, like maybe cheaper. What do you think? Think it was a good deal? Yes, no? And another thing is, what kind of problems do you think will happen now that the U.S. has that much land? Right? It's double the size. You know, think about who's there. Think about how people are. You and then how these American people back then are going to be now that they know there's land out west. What do you think's going to happen? What kind of problems do you see? Okay, so pause the video, write your answer, but we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right, so here's the thing. James Madison became president. And the thing is, just like how when Adams became president, the United States was in a conflict, same thing here. We're in an international crisis. It's starting to rise. What happened was British were starting to capture American ships, going to different places, trading with different places. And basically, they do this thing called impressment, which is basically they kidnapped soldiers or sailors and said, you're going to serve with our Navy. Or they would come and say, oh, that's John Jacob. And the guy would be like, my name's not John Jacob. It's John Jacob. Look at everyone. It's John Jacob. Remember John Jacob? That's John Jacob. And so they would take the person, saying that they were deserters in the British Navy. So then they're just claiming them. They really weren't. And on top of that, there were some white settlers who were, out and about, and thing is, they had run-ins with Indians, Native Americans. And what would happen is sometimes they get in scuffles with them. There would be stories like something happened, and they'd be like, "Oh, it was Native Americans. It was Indians. They did this. They did this to these people." And chances are, sometimes they never did. But the Native Americans were scapegoats. You know, and what happened was the American people started saying, "Well, I bet you anything," because those British people, in the Canada area, they get along with those Native Americans. Yeah, they probably told them to attack our white settlers. Yeah, that's what they did. They told them to attack our people. Yeah, and so there's this. Their mentality is starting to go like Britain is against us. You know, so Jefferson. This is before Madison. When this crisis started happening, he's like, you know what? We're gonna hurt Britain in the pocketbook. That's how you get them. And what ends up happening is he tries to punish them economically, but it backfires. It hurts the United States more, and we start getting into a recession. Okay. Then when Madison becomes president, he's like, you know what? I like what Jefferson did. I'm going to do that. So he started trying to hurt them economically, and it actually started to work. Now, here's the thing. Britain, remember, they're far away, like 3,000 miles. Britain's like, okay, here's the thing. Why don't we send some people to the United States, see if we can come to a deal, come to an agreement, and see if we can, stop this whole thing from getting bigger than what it is. Okay, so they send some people on the ships. They go sail or a couple months across the sea, and then they get to the United States. They get to Washington. They're like, "Oh, hey, we're here to talk to you guys, make a deal." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, no, we already declared war against you. Yeah, Congress declared war. Yeah, um, you're the enemy now." So they're like, "Okay, well, I guess we'll go back and tell our people we're at war with the United States." And this is the War of 1812. Now, at the very beginning, the United States Navy was actually fighting off the British ships off Lake Erie, Lake Champlain, uh, very well. They were winning battles. But the thing is, they couldn't stop the British from marching into Washington, D.C. All right. So what happened was, um, on August 22nd, Monroe left to meet with some generals to talk about strategy, things like that, what to do with when the British come and things like that. Um, excuse me. But on August 23rd, 1814, the British troops started marching into Washington, and they go to the Capitol building and light it on fire. Okay, they destroy the Capitol building. Um, then they start marching towards the White House. Okay, now remember, the White House is basically new. It's not even 20 years old, not even close, you know. But soldiers come and they're they're on their way, and Dolly Madison, the wife of, or sorry, no, yeah, Dolly Madison, my bad. I don't know why it says Monroe, misprint, my bad. Dolly Madison uh, is there with the people who's helping her, and they're like, let's get this, let's get her stuff, and they're leaving. Um, Dolly Madison gets the portrait of George Washington and takes it with her. She basically leaves everything else behind. She takes the portrait of George Washington and leaves. About an hour or so later, the British start marching into the White House, and they go inside. It's empty, of course, but the thing is, they're there. They go through the place looking for the president. Nobody there. So what they do is they said, you know what? Since we're here, we might as well enjoy ourselves. So they kicked back. They ate food off the presidential silverware. They ate the food that was there. And once they basically had their stomachs full and they ate all the food, um, they lit the White House on fire. Okay. So the White House, where it's at, it was actually set on fire. Okay. So here's your next set of questions. Why do you think Dolly Madison did what she did? Why would she do that? Why would she basically sacrifice her stuff for this thing called, basically, it was considered a national treasure, which was the portrait of George Washington? And the next question is basically about you. Tell me about what you think. Would you sacrifice your belongings to save a national treasure? Why or why not? And I put in quotation because the thing is, the portrait of George Washington, um, now it really does have some significant meaning because of what it went through. But that at that time, it was, a portrait. It was like 20 some years old. So uh, would you sacrifice everything in your home, everything that's yours, to save basically a national treasure? Okay, so be sure you answer that question. Uh, hit the pause button because we're moving on in three, two, one. So another famous story that comes from the War of 1812. comes on September 13th, 1814, in which the British are bombing Baltimore, and they're just sending bombs left and right and basically demolishing the city. Um, in the morning the next day, they basically stop their attack. They're like, man, this town is enough. Um, and then this person named Francis Scott Keys um, sees this flag, the American flag, still standing, after the bombing of Baltimore. And he writes the Star Spangled Banner. The "Oh, say, can you see, by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hail," all that stuff. That was Francis Scott Keys. That's about this bombing of Baltimore and the flag being there. This would later become our national anthem. Okay, now that's where that came from. A lot of people don't know that. If you ask people where the Star Spangled Banner came from, I don't know. You'll get that quite a bit. Trust me. So now you know something. Okay. So December 24th, 1814, the treaty again was signed. Now this is a treaty between the United States and Britain to basically end the War of 1812. Now here's the thing, though. This is something that was kind of like unheard of at that time too. Basically, it restored the pre-war boundaries. So usually when the winning side, signs a treaty with the losing side, usually that winning side keeps the land that they conquered. Britain said no. They like, no, we don't want the land. You can have it back, things like that. They basically kicked the crap out of the United States, burned the Capitol building, burned the White House, destroyed major cities like Baltimore. And then they're like, yeah, we don't want that stuff, the land. Nah, we're good. Okay. That was just unheard of. Now, the thing is, what's really interesting is this war increased the nation's prestige overseas. Here's this young country who not only got their independence against the biggest, baddest army at that time, but also they went against them in the War of 1812, and they were able to strike a deal where they didn't lose anything. So the thing is, the American people started feeling a sense of patriotism. Like, yeah, we're the people, we're Chingon, we're top dogs, type of thing. And at the same time, those Democratic Republicans were looking at the Federalists and basically pointing them out, going, those Federalists didn't even want this war. They thought it would be bad for our country. They thought, we were going to lose for sure and things like that. And this destroyed the Federalist Party. But here's the thing. The United States did lose that war. Again, like I said, we got our butts kicked. It's just by the good graces with Britain that we were able to not lose land, and we didn't have to really, do like what most countries do when they lose a war, which is pay for things and, have to lose land and, be subject to the winner, we didn't have to do that. So again, it's a pretty interesting thing with the War of 1812. All right, so like I said, after the war, there's more of a sense of patriotism, but more of a unity. Not with the country, even though there was that, but people started feeling more united to their state. They're like, yeah, I'm proud to be a Virginian. I'm proud to be a New Yorker, things like that. And then the country shifted its focus from world issues to national. Let's take care of ourselves and let the world do their thing, you know. Now, what happened next is that the renewal for the bank that Alexander Hamilton created, it didn't go through. Because again, remember those anti-federalists, the Democratic Republicans, they didn't like the national bank because, again, they didn't want the government to be too powerful. Excuse me. So they let that bank die. Okay. When that happened, state chartered banks and private banks, they started popping up everywhere. And they used banknotes instead of real money. So these, if you look at these $2 right there, if you look right in the dead center of them, they say like Iron City National Bank of Pittsburgh. Instead of saying, the dollar in the United States, now this is a dollar, a banknote from the Bank of Pittsburgh. Now, could you use this elsewhere? Depends. If that place did business with the National Bank of Pittsburgh, you couldn't go to Florida and use that because chances are that Bank of Pittsburgh didn't do business with Florida. And the same thing with this bottom dollar, City National Bank, Selma. You know, so that's the thing. This is where things are starting to get kind of bad now. The privatization of the banks, and they're using this. They're not giving people real money, they're giving them their money. And without the regulatory presence of the federal bank, making sure that banks aren't cheating people, that things are up and up, and that the economy can be stable in some way. Without that bank now, again, things were getting bad, and the price of items rose. We went through another inflation. Okay, so we come to our next question, which is Britain could have taken all of the land they conquered during the War of 1812. Why do you think they didn't? Why would they not take our land? Okay, so think about it. Really think about it. Why wouldn't they? They have every right to, but they didn't. So why? Okay, so tell me what you think. Okay, the second question is this, because we're talking about the state pride and some of that. Are you proud to be a Californian? Why or why not? Explain your answer. All right. So go ahead, pause this video because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right. So here's the thing now. In the South, when an escaped slave would leave, a lot of times they would head north. Okay. And I'm sure you heard the story with the North Star and all that stuff. But also, some slaves went south. They went to Florida because Florida at this time was owned by Spain. It's a totally different country. Okay, so they're like, I'll just go over there. So they would cross the border. And the thing is, if they try to chase them, there were these Seminole Indians who were like, you don't belong here. And they would attack those American settlers chasing the African American slaves. You know, because again, majority of the time, the African American slaves didn't do anything to these Indians, but the white settlers have attacked Indians in the past, and that's the stuff they remember. These guys are the ones who attacked us. Here they are coming to our land. To heck with them, you know. Now the thing is, Spain couldn't really control their borders, because of the Indians, some of that, the Seminole Indians. So what happened was Secretary of War John C. Calhoun, which is that dude right there with the wicked hair, he sent troops to Florida under the command of Andrew Jackson. Now, this is where Andrew Jackson really gets his reputation of handling Indians, handling Native Americans. It starts here at this point. Okay, and it's going to be something taught in a couple lessons from now. Okay, so at this time, this is when Adams was still president, and he basically put pressure on Spain, saying, "Hey, look it, you guys are there. That's your land, but the thing is, you can't control your Native Americans. You got to tell them to not kill. You got to make sure that you're handling this up because it looks bad on you. Okay, but the thing is, Spain had their own problems. A lot of their colonies that they had when they were coming over during the Columbus, Cortez, during that time, a lot of those countries were basically um, getting their freedom, you know, uh, and they were fighting back against Spain. So Spain goes, okay, we're just going to give up Florida. It's too much of a headache. Well, let's work out some deal. So they did the Adams-Onis Treaty. Okay. Now this treaty is not named after President Adams, but rather his son, John Quincy Adams. Okay. He was Secretary of State at that time when the deal was made. Okay. So now the thing is like this. Spain started to worry because, again, a lot of their colonies, and if you look at the map, there's quite a bit of them, were gaining their independence. They were fighting back against Spain. They were tired of being under their rule, being treated like, you know, second class citizens and things like that. Now, here's the thing, when it comes to power in the world, it goes England, France, then Spain. And here is Spain losing territory, getting people fighting against them. Okay, now other countries around the world, which have less power than Spain, they own land too, all across the world. Now, if word spreads that, oh, this small group of Indians or natives or whomever fought against Spain and won, what do you think that's going to tell those other smaller countries that are in control, that are being controlled by countries that are less powerful than Spain? It's going to make them say, well, we can gain our independence too, right? Yeah. Excuse me. So there's a lot of European monarchs, a lot of European um, kings and queens and some of that who are telling Spain, you need to get control of your colonies, because then the colonies we hold on to, they're going to want to fight back too, because you're more powerful than us. And if you lose control, then chances are those people we control are going to rebel against us, and then there goes everything. But the thing is, Great Britain and the United States didn't want Spain to regain control. Okay, again, remember, Great Britain is on top, and the United States basically has their own reasons why they don't want countries over here. But in 1821, Russia announced, hey, you know what? We're going to expand our territory, and we're taking Alaska. It's just like right across from us, so we're going to take that. Yeah. And they even said that they go as far as the Oregon County, Oregon Territory, which is that light yellow section on the map there. Okay. So if you look at that map, the green section in the United States, that little yellowish section, that's the Oregon County, Oregon Territory. And that brownish, light brownish, coffee looking color, that is Spain. Okay, so remember I told you, look at the map because it's going to help you later on, which is actually, I think, the next slide, to be honest. So the Monroe administration didn't like the idea of other countries coming in here into our part of the world, because that's like, we're here. Why are they here? Why are they trying to come in when they shouldn't? We are already here. So December 1823, the Monroe Doctrine is declared. That whole sea to shining sea. So again, pause the video, look back at that map to see what I mean by sea to shining sea. There's a problem with that. Look at the map from where the Pacific is and where the Atlantic is, and the United States, what we have now, what's the problem there in 1823? Okay. Um, the president declares that the American continent should no longer be viewed as open to colonization. Basically, no one else should be here. Those countries down there in Latin America, they gained their independence. They have they have control of their country. You should respect that. You should not be trying to come in and retake it. They've earned their independence. But the United States doesn't mind Britain being on this side. So here's your next questions. Why wouldn't the administration want other across the ocean countries in our part of the world? Why wouldn't they want France or Russia or Belgium or Portugal or Spain to be over on our side? Okay. The second question is, I want to know, do you think President Monroe really cared about Latin America? That when I remember when I said that they won their independence, should leave them alone. Do you think he really meant that? Do you think he really cared about Latin America? Why or why not? Okay. So pause the video, answer those questions. So lastly, here is your exit ticket. Go ahead and pick one of these questions. Did Jefferson overstep his authority to strike a deal for the Louisiana Purchase? Remember, there's nothing that said that the president can buy or sell land. There's nothing that says that. But there is some stuff that says it's very vague that the president does have some powers when it needs to be. And he's like, it needs to be. Okay. What are some reasons why Americans don't know about the War of 1812? What are some possible reasons you can think of? The last one, why is the saying from sea to shining sea a problem in 1823? This one, again, if you can't remember how the map looks like, pause the video, go back, look at that map, and look at what's between the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic. The part where the United States is right now, what's the problem with that? How did the map look like in 1823? Okay, so once you finish this question, you're done for the class. Okay, be prepared next week. We're going to have a little Kahoot game and stuff like that, so be prepared. Okay, but yeah, you guys take care, be safe, and I'll see you guys later.